Have you ever put together a whole skateboard? We're going to do that today. I'm looking forward to it. So to start with, we've got all the components here, and we've got our board, which is from Madrid skateboards. It's called the Sticker Bomb. I'm very excited about this. We've got grip tape. We've got a set of Carver CX Trucks. We've got a set of Orangutan fat-free wheels. Zealous Barrings. And Riptide Carver CX 87.5A. Those are the hot pink bushings. We're gonna put those on there. That'll be fun. And I've got 2 risers, my hardware, and my tools. So that's gonna be my project for today. Okay, so first I'm gonna put the bearings into the wheels. And I'd like to get out a couple of bearings to start with and just see how they go in with my own thumb pressure. I can squeeze them. And these are a little too tight to do that, so now here's my trick. I get a truck, take out both nuts, I put on a wheel that overhangs the nut so that you can't see the nut there. And so that when I lay it flat on the table, the truck isn't touching the table, just the wheel touches the table. And then I have this up on top to push against, so then I put the wheel in there with the bushing, with the bearing that's not seated fully. I push that down. I can put my weight on it and get that to sit all the way down. And then for the next one, now I have one bearing in and one bearing out. So then I put the bearing on here. I put the wheel over that. And we're good to go. I've got both. So I just do that a few more times, and we'll be set. Then I take this back apart. This is not the trucks that I'm actually going to be using to put together today. These were just handy, so I just used it for putting the bearings in. That is the way we do that. Okay, so now part of building a skateboard is putting on the grip tape. This is the part that I have the most trouble with. Maybe that's true for everybody, I don't really know. I find it to be tricky. I'm still getting better at it every time I practice, and so here comes another try. So what I do is I start out with peeling back the beginning of the tape. I know I've got the tape is wide enough to cover the whole board, and I know the tape is long enough to cover the whole board, both directions, so that's good. And then I peel off the beginning of what's going to be the end. I'm going to start at the flat end of the board here, the tail. The flatter end anyway. I'll peel off the paper, the back of the tape, and I get that, I peel it away part way, but then I sort of just leave it hanging like this. So I have only a little bit to work with when I'm getting in position. So then I'm looking down on top of the board and I'm trying to make sure that the tape is totally square, perpendicular to the direction of the board. And so I want it to be totally perpendicular to the direction of travel, which means parallel to the tail here. Parallel to the tangent at the tip of the tail if you want to be really accurate. And so to do that, I just go in with a little bit of a bend in it. I try to get the center first. Make sure that I got it centered. I'm not looking down the middle so well. So I'm going to turn it a little bit so I can get it under my armpit so I can look right down the middle here. And I've got a couple of pieces. I've got the tip down now, the very edge here. I guess that's not the tip, it's the tail. I'm keeping this unstuck because I want to just hold it out on the roll to make sure I've got it straight. I don't. So I'm going to unstick it a little bit and rotate it. It needs to twist a little bit this way. That's looking more like it. Okay, so now I'm going to start sticking this down. Get that firmly anchored. And I'll unroll the back here. Carefully get this laid down. This was a little bit wrinkled, so I don't want to rely on the pressure or the tension to make sure this is flat. I'm going to start this off by actually pushing it down. Now maybe people who are good at it don't have to do this, but I just want to be careful. Okay, I've got the tape stuck. Now we'll go on to trimming the tape, which is actually the harder part. That was the easier part. Okay, so I just used my garage scissors to trim off the extra tape that was still had the stickiness unused. And now I've got the board looking like this, with the tape square tape around the edge. I'm going to trim off that excess so we have a nice slim trim skateboard. So I've got my, I'm using an Allen wrench here, and I'm going to use the Allen wrench to scrape along the top of the board, sort of parallel to the ground, to leave an outline of where the edge of the board is. So after all that noise, you can see that we've now got the deck nicely outlined in the tape, and that is we will use our razor blade to cut it. Okay, so you've got your tape on the board and you've got your outline scraped in with a file or with the edge of a screwdriver or an Allen wrench like I used. And you're going to want to get a brand new razor blade, and you're going to want to start following the outline of that cutout, or cutting out the outline that you scraped onto the paper, onto the grip tape. And I've heard that you should hold the razor blade at 45 degrees, and I've heard that you should hold the razor blade at various number of degrees. I'm sort of experimenting with that. I don't really have a good piece of advice there. So hold it at some angle. I'd get close to 45, between 30 and 45 it looks like. And you follow the line all the way around, sort of like this. You get started into that spot where the line has been sort of softened and, what's the word? Sanded away. So it's much easier to cut than the rest of the tape. You still want to make sure this stays tense, or has tension. All right, this was one of my best ones. That went really well. I'm very pleased. So as you can see, we've now got a nice clean edge all the way around the skateboard, and we will poke some holes in there and we'll be ready to go. Okay, so the tape is on, and I've got a little tiny screwdriver here. I'm going to poke holes for the truck's screws to go through, according to where the 4 holes are on the bottom here. And then after I've done that, I take a screwdriver and I sort of open up the hole a little bit. I guess you could say I sand away the paper there. That gets it completely ready for the trucks. Man, that's a lot of jokes I want to make there, but I'm going to avoid them. And now, the skateboard is ready to be completed to the next step. I almost forgot to mention, after you put the paper on, you want to sand down all the way around the edges, and you want to sand down the sort of interior edge of the screw holes. So I'm going to do that real quick. As you can probably tell, I was sanding down with the extra scrap grip tape that I cut off just now. Okay, so now we're going to put some wheels on this thing. So we'll take off 2 of the axle nuts, and we'll take off 2 of the speed rings. We've got 4 speed rings for these little washers on each side of the axle. And these bearings, the Zealous bearings, say that you don't need the speed rings because they have a little bit of a built-in lip that keeps the face of the bearing away from touching the inside of the hanger. And you can use them or not use them. That'll be up to you in this case. In other cases, they recommend them to be used at all times. I'm putting them on here so that it's a choice for whoever gets to ride this skateboard. When you put your wheels on, you want to make sure there's just the tiniest bit of play that they're not being completely pinched. But you also want to make sure that at least a tiny little fraction of the axle is all the way through the safety plastic on the nut. You want to make sure it's screwed all the way in so that you have to give it back and forth on. You can't use too many speed rings, for example. Then you wouldn't be able to get the nut tight enough. Put this down to be just right. A little bit of play. And now we'll put on the other 2 wheels. All right, and now we are looking at a very nice skateboard. We're going to do one more thing because we've got the riptide. Oh, whoops, we didn't do the bushings. Okay, bushings are next. Okay, so now we're going to put on our riptide 87.5A bushings. These Carver bushings, these stock black gray ones, these are 89. So the ones I'm putting on are slightly softer, and they're a different formula also, which means that they spring back in a slightly different way. I've never seen a graph. I assume it's proprietary, but it is unique. And you can tell the difference when you're riding it. I prefer the Riptide formula, definitely. So the larger of the two, the taller one goes on the bottom. So you've got the base plate, and you've got the washer, and then you've got the board side bushing, then you've got the hanger, then you've got the roadside bushing, and your other washer, and the kingpin nut. Make sure that's on tight enough that you can't spin the washer easily, but also loose enough that you cannot spin the washer, and that the kingpin is all the way engaging the like the safety plastic in the nut. What is that called? The locking thread. So again, on the bottom we've got the base plate. Okay, so now we're putting the front truck on. That's almost complete. All right. Here is the skateboard ready to skate, and now we're going to throw a couple of stickers on there. We're going to throw a Riptide sticker on there for the Riptide bushings. I'm going to put an orangutan sticker on there too for the orangutan wheels. Those look pretty good. So here's a very nice skateboard with some pink and blue highlights, and this is going to shred down the hill. I'll show you that in a few minutes.